Hey, this is Fred Wolf. I have found that there are no shortages of videos on the internet that talk about roof coating adhesion tests. What I have found about those videos is that all of them make some critical errors, and so I thought I would make a video that kind of dispels some myths and also shows the correct way to do an adhesion test once and for all. So here we go. So you have a roll of roof coating fabric, reinforcing fabric, and these are the things that you need to prepare to do an adhesion test with. You want to have a 1-inch strip of fabric in order to do your adhesion test. And so I found that this is an easy way to create a roll of 1-inch strips of fabric. This particular tape I have here is all I had, which is 2 inches, but I'm going to pretend that it's 1 inch just to kind of show you the idea of how to do it. When you first get a roll of fabric like this, it's going to come wrapped in plastic. And if that's the case, if it's a brand new roll, then you can just ignore what I'm doing here with the tape. This is basically to hold the roll together while you cut the 1-inch strips. So you wrap the entire thing with tape, and then you're going to cut along the edge of this tape with a razor knife. And you keep turning the roll as you cut deeper and deeper and deeper until you get through the entire roll. And then you will have a 1-inch roll of fabric that you can cut to length in order to do your adhesion tests. So you can then easily take this roll that's been cut out and throw this in your backpack, and it stays together because the tape is there. And so when you want to use it, you simply take off this tape and you cut off about an 18-inch strip of fabric. That length is not incredibly important, but you don't want it to be much shorter than that because you want some room to work with your fabric, and I'll show you that in a second. All right, so on preparing the surface, what you want to do is you want to take a damp rag or a spray bottle with just plain water in it and wet down the surface that you want to do the adhesion test on. And then you scrub it a little bit with that damp rag. And then you come back with a dry rag and you dry it off. Now, this is important, guys. You don't want to use some kind of a cleaner on this. You know, window cleaner or simple green or splash washer, you know, some of the crazy things I've seen people use on these surfaces. And that's because when it comes time for you to do your coating, your actual coating project, you're not going to be washing the entire roof with window cleaner. So you want to make sure that the result that you get from pressure washing with plain water is similar to the result you would get during this adhesion test. So plain water on a rag will make sure that it's fairly similar to what you're going to get after pressure washing. And if it will stick after this adhesion test, you can be confident that it will stick after pressure washing with plain water. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is picture box the adhesion test area with tape. And really all this does is to help you look like a professional. You know, if you have clean lines at the end of everything that you do when you're applying coating, you look more professional. And, you know, a rule of thumb is if a 3-year-old can do what you just did on the roof, you need to step up your game. So picture box this so that you can pull the tape at the end and have a nice clean square. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the application of the coating product itself. I'm going to be using silicone today. But this will work with acrylic or other coatings as well. So you want to put a good coat down in this area between the pieces of tape. And as a general rule here, you want to have about 30 mils of coating down on your base. And that will ensure that when you try to embed the fabric in it, there is enough coating to both go into the fabric and to remain in contact with the roof. Okay, and so now to embed the fabric, you want to take a chip brush and you want to dab the silicone into the fabric like this. If you drag the brush across the silicone, you can end up making holidays and fish mouths underneath the silicone. This ensures that you're pushing the silicone through the fabric and embedding it well. And so then in the application of the finish coat of your product, you want to drag it this way along your test strip, not the other way, because you will end up wrinkling up your test strip. So you drag it along until you reach the end of the test strip. And you see, the goal that you want to have in this test, in the top coat of this test, is that you want the waffle pattern of the fabric to disappear. Then you know you've put enough coating down for a good test. And then before the sample starts to skin over, you want to go ahead and pull the tape while it's still wet. Look at that. See, that is a professional line. That shows that you care about the details of what you do on a roof. So I recommend doing that picture box when you're doing an adhesion test. And so the final step to getting your test set up is to tie a knot in the end of your fabric, and that will help you when you come back to pull this test with a fish scale. You can fit the hook into that knot and it won't tear the fabric. Then you want to put just a little dab of your coating next to your test, and then put the end of your test fabric into that little dab, and that will keep the wind from blowing the end of your fabric around and getting it stuck in the test itself, and that will make it difficult to pull later on. So now you have a dirty chip brush and you have to get off the roof somehow. So a little trick that I've learned in order to not get your bag all messy and to keep your hands clean is that you grab the top of the brush with your glove and you pull the brush, or pull your glove over the brush. Grab the bottom part here and then pull your other glove back over the top of it. And what you've done is you have encapsulated the dirty brush. Your hands are clean, and you can just throw that in your bag and keep going. So after all that's complete, you want to make sure that your test sample has cured completely before you try to pull it. Now you're going to have to check with your manufacturer as to the time that they recommend you wait. But for silicone in general, as long as it's not put down too thick, you should probably be able to pull it within 24 hours. With any kind of waterborne or solvent-borne product, you generally should wait about 72 hours. But again, that may vary depending on the manufacturer, so check with them as to how long you should wait before you pull it. Okay, so now that the sample has cured completely, it's time to pull it. So the first thing that you do to prepare for that is you take a razor knife and you score along both sides of the fabric, because you only want to test the pull that is resisted by the fabric itself. So you score both sides. And now this is the part where there is a lot of confusion out there. And that is the direction or the angle that you pull the test at. Now I don't have a fish scale with me, so just pretend that I've got a fish scale hooked to the end of this knot here. The important thing for me to explain here is the way that you pull it, or the direction that you pull it. You want to pull the test at a 45-degree angle. I see a lot of guys out there with videos that are pulling straight up on their test. That's a 90-degree angle, and that is incorrect. That will give you a false reading. The poundage that you get on your fish scale will be a lot higher than it should be if you pull it at 90 degrees. You know, this is 120, 140 degrees. This is 90 degrees. This is 45 degrees, and this is the angle that you pull it. And when you're pulling it, what you're wanting to do is pull the coating in half. This is what you're looking for. You're looking that there will be coating left on the surface here and on the fabric strip. This means that you tore that coating completely in half. That's called cohesive failure. What you don't want to see is adhesive failure. Adhesive failure means that the coating that you put down comes completely off, and what's left is just the roof surface. That means that all the coating came off, and that means that you you failed that test, and there should be some other steps taken in order to get good adhesion. So then after you have pulled this fabric off completely, you want to record the highest number that was registered on your fish scale during that pull, and then also record the fact that you have cohesive failure. You should probably take a picture of this to include in your documents. Now, there is a lot of also confusion as to the reason why both of these things are important. If you have full cohesive failure, if there's coating left here on the surface, that means that the pounds that you register with that fish scale have nothing to do with the power, or I should say the adhesive qualities of the coating to the surface. All that number says is the amount of pull that was necessary to tear this sample in half. So you're measuring really the cohesive strength of the coating itself. That's what that number represents. Now, if you have total adhesive failure, if the coating comes completely off, then that number on the fish scale becomes very important, because the ASTM standard is that you need 2 pounds per lineal inch of pull if you have adhesive failure. So both of those numbers are important and should be recorded, but the most important of the two things that you record is cohesive failure. And now just one word on pounds per lineal inch. This particular sample of fabric is 2 inches wide. So let's say that I pulled this and I got 12 pounds. That means that in actuality, I would write down that this sample pulled at 6 pounds per lineal inch, because this is 2 inches wide. So you have to do some math in order to make that reading correct. If you had a 4-inch wide strip, then you would have to do the math for 4 inches wide. If you have a 1-inch wide strip, you can just take that number and write it down, because that is your pounds per lineal inch, because it's only 1 inch wide. This one's 2 inches wide, so you'd divide the reading by 2.